Hey, what's up guys? This is the One Piece 1021 back with another deck profile. Today we're going to be going over Red Yellow Sabo. Um, I think this leader has some of the highest potential in the game and promotes a really fun play style with a very unique mechanic. So we'll just get right into it. So if you put one Dawn under your leader during your main phase and once per turn, you can add a cost 3 or higher character with 7,000 power or higher to the top of your life face up. Give up to one of your characters plus 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. So, notably, that just means it goes through the end of your opponent's turn. So, some applications with that, you can see very clearly one of the best synergy pieces right next to the leader, which is Kid and Killer from EBO1. Of course, this card has Rush, and when attacking, if your opponent has 2 or less life cards, which is part of your main strategy, is kind of to rush down and have strong tempo plays. This card gains 2,000 power until the end of the turn. So what you can do here is, let's say you have a Kikunojo or a Zoro or something of that nature. All you have to do is summon Kid and Killer, attack with Kid and Killer, and this is predicated on them being a 2 life, but this is just an example. Attack with Kid and Killer, the attack goes through, or it doesn't, it's blocked or something of that nature, it doesn't matter. You attach a Dawn under Sabo, you put Kid and Killer to the top of your life, and then you give something 2,000 power, a good target being the Zoro, until the end of your opponent's turn. Now, this is a really strong interaction because they're going to want to remove your characters, um, reasonably well and on curve, because if they don't, things will get out of hand. But that's one of the neat parts of the strategy is against black, yellow, even blue, you're tucking your characters away into your life, and the removal spells aren't as valuable. You only let them remove possibly even only one thing at a time, and you can recur Kid and Killer 3 or 4 times potentially. And that's what makes this leader very strong. This effect and color pairing is amazing. Red and yellow actually goes very well together. I mean, it's obviously predominantly a yellow build, at least my version is, but the rush package that you get from red is just too strong to ignore. So that's why we're going with 4 Kid and Killer and 4 Zoro. Um, both classic cards. You don't necessarily want to cast Kid and Killer the turn you see it. You typically do want to summon it when their life is at 2 or less, just so you get the effect. But otherwise, I mean, you can play it on curve, and if it's like an empty board or a fairly empty board, like let's say you went second and it's your 4 Dawn turn, that's not a bad play. And then we'll round out the rush package with 2 Monkey D. Dragon. This card is extremely powerful in this deck because even with just Dragon and Sabo on your 8 Dawn or 9 Dawn turn is powerful because you can summon Dragon, and when he's summoned, you put 2 Rested Dawn on a leader character. Well, you can put it on Sabo. You attack with Monkey D. Dragon, and then you can use Sabo's effect to put the dragon back on top of your deck, and you can just loop that forever pretty much. And if it's just dragon and Sabo, as you'll see in some example games potentially, um, that's a strong enough effect on its own. But if you have other characters on your board, then it becomes a very potent combo there. And then lastly, we have 2 Monkey D. Luffy. This card is a necessary evil because of all the blockers in the format, particularly black with Sabo. And this can just get you wins outright, of course. Uh, very, very relevant into black, as I stated, against Sabo. It's good into purple with like Queen or Eustace Captain Kidd. A lot of decks run some number of blockers, so this card is just very good for that. And speaking of blockers, we run 2 Nico Robins. This is particularly for Rebecca, but you can also use it into Bonney. It'll pop their searchers like Kazuki Momonosuke or Baby 5. Uh, Also relevant into Perona, who uses that the Wano engine with Otama and Momonosuke, because they will just never attack with those characters because, I mean, you're not going to, and they'll just continually get value with You Can Be My Samurai. So this card has some good disruption that's relevant. It's only a 2 of, though. Any more, it would be kind of cloggy, I would say, because in a lot of matchups it's a 1k counter, but in those matchups where it matters, it does a lot of work actually. So definitely a tech card, but 2 copies is fine. And then the last card in the red package is 10 drop Shanks. Some games do tend to go a little long, or let's say you're looping your value engine, um, and you just need to remove something big on the board. Well, you can with Shanks. You can remove pretty much anything, I would say. Uh, I mean, there's some notable exceptions like Charlotte Linlin and such, but it can remove a lot of the relevant threats like your Gecko Morias, 10 drop Doflamingo. It just removes a lot of relevant threats. But again, it would clog. It's just a nice card to have. So we run it at 2. Okay, next we'll go into the 2k counters. So notably, we're running 4 Kazuki Hyoris. This card is a very good generic card. It has a couple different use cases with you casting it, and then you take either the top or bottom of your life card, you look at it when it goes to your hand, and then you can put a different card on top of your life. Very strong effects. On your 2 down turn or 3 down turn, let's say you don't see a Zoro. Let's say you don't see, anything that's too notable, or maybe you bricked a little. This card can remedy that, because let's say in that scenario, you didn't see a Zoro, or let's say a Gadatsu, then you can take a look and see what that top life is. And let's say you have like a Kiku Nojo in your hand, just put that on top of your life. It's pretty solid. There are some 4 life leaders running around in this meta. I'm not going to say it's necessarily the most common, but there's several 4 life leaders, notably your Black Yellow Luffy and such, maybe Marco, especially after this starter decks come out. So you can get someone down to 3 life fairly easily, and Kiku Nojo will be live most of the game a lot of the time. So that's that use case. The other use case is when you're looping cards and they don't want to attack you to give you rushers to end the game. This happens a lot with Kid and Killer and Zoro, even Dragon. So what you can do is you can play the Hiyori, pick up your rusher, and then you can put down a trigger. Notably Nami, Satori, Nekomamushi, stuff like that. The other 2k is Satori. Generic good card. It's just a body a lot of the time. Otherwise, you just hold it as a 2k counter. Simple as that. The other 2 2ks, so 10 2ks total, only 2 copies of this one, is Makino. Very similar use case to Kazuki Hiyori, except this one allows you just to rearrange your life. So you are taking a life, but it allows you to rearrange them, which is a very pertinent effect, very strong effect. And that's exactly why we run the card next to it, which is Edward Newgate. So on curve, this card is kind of insane. It's a 7k body, so you can immediately use Sabo effect on it at any time, which, that happens some amount of times, not necessarily all the time. But regardless, on play, you add the top card of your deck to your life. Then you look at all your life. You put one of the cards in your life on top of your deck, so the card you'll draw the next turn. and then you get to rearrange them in any order that's left in your life, and that is really, really strong. You can set up future plays with relevant triggers like your Nami and such, but notably towards the end of your life, you could put in you're the one who should disappear, and you just get an extra life, which can win you the game because someone perhaps doesn't consider that or they can't play around it. So um, that's what makes Edward Newgate a valuable addition. Um, and then the two notable bodies that you can get out of life that aren't Satori, Kiku Nojo. This is a fantastic card into a very black centric meta. This is amazing. Uh, just because, again, you can get most people to 3 life very easily, especially in this deck. So this effect will be online, whether it be the trigger or the on KO effect. And if they do KO it, you're getting a life. That's very strong, very generic effect. And then we also have Nekomamushi. This card is almost as relevant as Kiku Nojo. It's not statted quite as well, but it does have a 1k counter. Again, a lot of times your opponent will be at 3 or less life, so this effect will be online to play him out of life for free, just like Kiku Nojo. His effect is you just attach 2 Don, and you can attack active mode characters, so you can get those pesky blockers out of the way. So as you can see, we kind of have an anti-blocker package with Nekomamushi, Nico Robin, and Monkey D. Luffy. Alright, and then that does it for that. The removal package that we have is Nami from OP08. You can trash a card with trigger, KO up to one of your opponent's cards with cost 5 or less. Then if you have 3 or less cards in your hand, you draw a card. This card is honestly the bread and butter of the deck, I would say. Looping this or your rushers is just very difficult for certain decks to deal with. And it really messes up their tempo and like the order of operations during their turn. And it has a 1k counter. This card is just so good. So good. The other half to Nami is Gadatsu. So on curve, this card is always good. There's a lot of relevance throughout the entire game, especially with, you know, Zoro running around. You can hit those pesky chopper blockers or the 3-cost chopper that on play or when attacking brings out a animal card from the top of their deck. This card can deal with it fairly easily because having decks at 3 life, maybe a little less, is the sweet spot for this deck. So Gadatsu can hit a lot of relevant targets. And then lastly, we have our events, which are You're the One Who Should Disappear. This is really good because, as you can see, there are several cards with no counter in the deck. So Kiku Nojo, Kid Killer, Roronoa Zoro, Shanks, Monkey D. Dragon, Monkey D. Luffy, and technically this Flame Split here. So there are several bricks, I will admit that, but again, you're putting cards into your life, so you're healing almost as much as like a Nell, sometimes more. So this card is very, very good as a counter, but of course the trigger effect gives you another chance at life with just an amazing effect that can be pretty hard to play around, especially if you're not sure if your opponent has it or not. Very good card. And lastly, another sort of tech card is Flame Split. So this is very versatile because it has a trigger, which is nice, which means you can pitch it with Nami if it's dead in your hand early on. But you can activate it in your main or as a counter. You give up to either like your leader or a character plus 1k for the turn, which is nice. And then after you do that, if your opponent has 2 or less life, rest up to one of their characters with a cost 4 or less. So again, you can rest like pretty pesky cards like Rebecca, but there are other use cases like Kuzan. So that's something to consider as well. That's a pretty popular card in Black Yellow Luffy nowadays. So this card is mainly for going for game. It is a trigger as well, which is nice. Or you could just get relevant value either out of pitching it from Nami, or you can get the pump. But typically, it's a going for game sort of card. So that is the list, and we'll get some example games in so we can kind of piece it all together and visualize it. So we have Oronoa Zoro, very relevant meta leader at the moment, according to the stats from the ranked sim. One of the best leaders, maybe not in high elo. Excuse me, tripping over my words there. High elo, but it's still a very good deck regardless. So in this hand, there's not a whole lot going on. We're gonna mulligan. And this looks better because they chose to go first, as they should. They want to attack us, so it's fine. Alright, in this scenario, I believe we want to Hiyori. We'll take the top life, and then we'll put Nami on top and pass. So if he doesn't sequence this correctly, which he may just want to play stuff out, perfect. I know exactly what we're doing here. Alright, so they may play a hiking bear with this. If not, it's just a body. Okay, the one cost Wano animal card. Oh, they don't attack us. Okay. That is probably in their benefit. Alright, so here, he doesn't have many cards, so we're just going to try to get a 2k out of hand, or just the body removed. That doesn't really matter either way. Okay. And we will play Kiku Nojo and pass. Again, not the best hand, but it does things. We're not too concerned about it. So if they attack with this Karu first, they're going to be in a little bit of trouble because I will trigger out Nami. We will just take it. So we will discard. I'm going to go with Flame Split here, and we will KO the Chopper. Sadly, we don't get to draw a card, but it's okay. 5,000 at life. We will counter out this time. 6,000 at life. We have to take. Well, I mean, we don't have to, but 6,000. I don't necessarily want to go down to 0 against Zoro, so we will counter. Okay. In this scenario, there's not too much that we want to do here. He's holding up a counter. Probably the Animal Kingdom or Drum Kingdom one that lets you play something, but kind of have to play into it. We just need to get these bodies off the board, so we'll go 6,000 into the biggest body first. But pretty much we want to just clear the board here. There's that Chopper blocker from EBO1. Very good card in this deck. So yeah, he just played the event. That's all that happened there. Alright. We'll attack for 6 into Karu. I imagine he should just let this go, even if he does have the counter, because he'd have no cards in hand, but, we'll see what happens. If you want to give me every card in your hand, then so be it. Rush Luffy, attack the Wano 1 cost. Alright, that's a successful board clear. Notably though, this chopper blocker is going to do a lot of work if he wants to remove our characters. So, not great. And we have a Rush Robson. They're actually probably just going to go for game. Or try to. 7,000. So, in my opinion, this is probably a misstep. I could have just attacked with the chopper and reduced it, but we'll counter out. Force a little bit more commitment here. Takes a little pressure off our life, which is nice. You could just get, free kill on Kikunojo, unfortunately. And then 5 at us, okay. Satori, we'll want to keep the counter. Although, we could have just looped it. That's a misplay on my part. Okay. Alright. So, again, we'll just clear the board, and then we'll start chipping at life. We will go 7,000 with Luffy and a Robson, which will kill it. Alright, then we play Zoro. Attach a Don to our leader. Put Luffy on top of our life, pump Zoro, and then attack 7,000 here into the chopper. In general, if at all possible, you just want to clear Zoro's board, or at least just leave like one thing like this Machina. We really have to go for life, so we will chip in for 1. Hopefully no relevant trigger, please. And pass. Rush Zoro, okay. And another Machina. Alright. 6,000 at me. We'll counter. Okay, 7/7, I guess. Sure, we'll let the Zoro go. Okay. Let's see here. We can Shanks, which isn't too bad. But I think Leafy would be better, and then just put him back into our life for safety is much better. We can also leave up Flame Split to make Sabo 6k for the turn, so I think that's just better. Put 1 Dawn on Luffy, 7 into Zoro, which will remove him. We'll go, 2,000 with Hiyori. And then 7,000 with Sabo. Alright, then we'll put that on top. Pass. So this Luffy's gotten a lot of value. And they're pretty much in top deck mode, which you don't want to be in that scenario. I suppose I should have left the 1 Dawn up, but it's not a big deal. Okay. I believe this will just be attack into life for the free damage, and then this should be a good turn for Shanks, popping Hiking Bear. Yeah, should be fine. And we'll get them to that magic 3 that we want them to be at. Okay. Play Shanks, pop Hiking Bear, pass. Now if they have a Rusher, that could be a little tricky, but with them being in top deck mode, and they've already seen 1 Zoro, I'm not sure. The ratios are a little different than the Zoro decks of old, with all these drum, kingdom, and animal cards. Okay, so they have a full board, but no counter in hands. So if we were to see Kid and Killer, or we get another body out of the last trigger, then they're potentially in a lot of trouble here. If I were them, I don't even know if I would attack or not, but it seems reasonable. Okay, 6,000. Let's see. So this chopper has. Oh no, they just played both of those choppers. So yeah, I'll take it. Okay. I mean, obviously, like I said, we could go for board, but we can also just go for game. Um, let's see here. Calculations are a little tough because if we go 5 Dawn with Hiyori and attack, makes it a little tricky, huh? Tough. We could. Let's see. Just running all the calculations in my head. Whatever we attack with first, they're taking, obviously. And then you need 3 more attacks, but they all have to hit. Yeah, in this scenario, I mean, we just have to go for it because I can't remove every single body this turn, so guess we just 5 Dawn Hiyori. Okay, no trigger. We go 5,000 with Sabo, as we have to. Yep. And now, I mean, I would say we just lose. I don't think there's a whole lot else we can do here. Yeah. Oh well. Fairly close-ish game, but just wasn't meant to be. We're up against Jewelry Bonney. This should be fairly back and forth matchup, I would imagine. They choose to go second, so we're gonna look for Zoro. We don't find one, but that's okay. Pass. All right. This will just be a attack for 8. Try to get them down to 3 quickly. Most lists aren't running the 8 cost useless Captain Kid anymore, so I'm not too concerned about stacking their hand. Alright, Rouge and 5 at us. We will take it. Flame Split. Yeah, we'll use the trigger to rest the Rouge. Let's try to take out the Rouge, honestly. Okay. That wasn't entirely necessary. So we're probably gonna card out of their hand regardless. So we'll attack into it. Kind of, sort of bait, I guess. And if they don't do anything, then we just get to. Okay, that's not bad. Get some cards out of their hand. We'll pitch the Kiku Nojo, KO the Arouge, and pass. Next turn, I believe since they don't really have any pressure on us, that probably just go for the Evergreen Gate. He did search up Doflamingo. We'll take this. Draw a card. Okay. It doesn't particularly matter either way here, as like what they rest, because this is an activate main, not a win attacking ability. But regardless, we want to get rid of the baby 5. Sure, that's fine. Alright, and then we play the Edward Newgate. We'll put Kidatsu on top. Seems pretty good. Leave Nekomamushi on top of our life. Seems good. And then from there, we'll pass. You know, somewhat tempted to put Edward Newgate on top to pump the Nami, but we're not too concerned with protecting it because at that point, Nami is like a blocker. This is also fine. The carrot doesn't necessarily. I mean, it does a lot of work into our deck, but it's okay. Yeah, they're spending all this time on that and not going for life, so it's fine. Okay. Alright, this is out of Gadatsu range, and that's okay. So, we'll just go in for 7. I'll rest the leader, that's fine. It'll also be stunned or frozen by Carrick, so I'm sure they have the counter in their hand. They haven't really countered much. Okay. Do you put them at 3? So our Nekomamushi's online. That's pretty good. We will. I think we'll just play another Newgate. Put Zoro on top of our deck. Okay. And then, since this Newgate would be frozen, we'll put him on top of our life instead. Go ahead. So yeah, I mean, Carrot is effective into our deck, of course, but being able to put things on top of our life to dodge effects like that, pretty nice. Okay, they play Hoodie Jones. I mean, perhaps they thought they were playing around an event. I mean, it's also just good on curve here, but it's not the end of the world for me, honestly. 6K, we will counter this one. Easiest one to get out of. Because the next will be 7-8. 7 from Bonney, 8 from Hoodie. Flame Split is online though. That is interesting. The 7. I believe we counter out of this as well. I don't think we want to get too low. So we will pitch the Kiku Nojo with You're the One Who Should Disappear. And then we will take this one. And honestly, I'm almost inclined to play Newgate again. Newgate MVP. Okay. So here, we do want to remove their characters. So we could Kid and Killer. Sequencing matters here though. So I don't necessarily have to reveal that I have Kid and Killer yet. So what we'll do here is, let's see. I can afford to put 1 Dawn on Sabo. We'll attack into Carrot. Get at least 1 card out of their hand. Okay. 2K counter. Interesting. They either have a lot of bricks or they don't want to get rid of their 1Ks. If that's the case, might start putting the gas on and attacking into life. Because they're inclined to drop 10 cost to Flamingo. I mean, they could play another Hody, sure, but I'm gonna heal another life. In this case, we're actually just gonna go face them. So we'll put Newgate on top, pump Zoro. Let's see. Let's think about this here. So 8,000, and then I can do Kid Killer for 8,000. That does play into the Doflamingo, but I'm not really that concerned about it. Because if they tap out to play Doflamingo and they don't leave up Bonney effect, they probably just die. That's 2 2Ks. So 3 2Ks total. Kid and Killer. We'll go for another 8. So essentially, the way we sequence the turn is that their leader ability was useless. Excuse me. Yeah, so the way we played that out makes it so we can't lose to another Hody, and 10 drop Doflamingo doesn't have that much value because I don't think they feel as if they can feasibly attack with it, so we'll take this hit, no problem. The never-ending Whitebeard loop, or Newgate, whatever. Okay, Basil Hawkins, and then Arouge, okay. So they're just gonna tank. I don't mind hovering around too. It's a little scary, but we get the Neko that we knew was there. Probably just go into the Arouge, remove it. Okay. Let's see what we can do here. Well, actually, we can rest Arouge, so with Flame Split. We'll use our Dawn efficiently here. Try to pressure down some life. Give Neko 1,000, rest Rouge. Put 2 Dawn on Zoro. Put a Dawn here. Put Zoro on top. Pump Neko. 8,000 life. We don't necessarily care about removing the Hawkins. Okay. It's fine. Sure. And actually, I think here... this is tough. Because yes, I could potentially get them to 0, which is good, but I could also play Newgate, put that Zoro on top, and then put something else into life that could help us, because, I mean, regardless of putting them to 0, they could still kill us on the crackback, so... we'll just put Kid and Killer on top. This is fine. We're actually likely dead here. Alright, so they decide to drop the Doflamingo. Probably the safest play they could have made. 8,000 at us. Sure, I mean, we have to take it here. They don't know that. Okay. Let's think about this here. I mean, I don't think there's much way around it. Let's just hope they decide not to attack with Basil. Okay. Which they may not. Ah, they do. They call our bluff. Okay. They got us. Yep, their hand was a bunch of bricks. Okay. GG. It's a fairly close one, I'd say, but again, um, not close enough to my liking. For the deck wrap up here, um, we saw a couple of example games there. Some of the power of Red Yellow Sabo, but also some of the downsides. Hopefully that'll be the appeal to my content, is just not showing just wins. You also see the losses. In this case, there are only 2 losses. They're fairly close games, but it's a more realistic depiction and like of how games go and how certain play lines go through and certain matchups go as well. For me, I just want to show the potential of Sabo. I'm not trying to misconstrue this as a top meta deck. I think it's like high tier for sure. It has a lot of latent potential, and with the card pool expanding into OP09 with more Revolutionary Army support, I think this leader has a lot of legs to it going forward as well. So we'll eventually try the Revolutionary Army package once OP09 comes out, but otherwise we kind of saw what was going on. If you don't see your rush pieces, that hurts, of course, and that's why we run a fairly sizable package of rush cards. You can also brick, which you saw in some of those games as well, but that's also part of the game. Some of the weaknesses to other meta-relevant decks, such as Bonney and Pudding, they brick a lot, so not too uncommon. So in a nutshell, that is Red Yellow Sabo, one of my favorite decks. So appreciate you watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. I would also appreciate a comment to let me know what you like, what you don't like about the videos, any suggestions, and that sort of thing. But otherwise, we'll see you next time.